Okay, I'm going to show you how to add buttonholes to the back of a dress to finish up your project. So there's several ways that you could do it. What you could do is just sew these buttons on with a thread and then actually just find the space in between the stitches and not create buttonholes, and that would just connect your dress together depending on how wide you want it to be. With this particular dress, it's a little bit tight, so I am going to add the buttonholes on the existing dress. So I'm going to show you how to make buttonholes. They will be designed to fit buttons like this, or they could also fit buttons like this, so they would be here and then they would loop through. I'm going to use these two little purple ones, but if you were actually making this dress for like a child and they were going to play with it, sometimes little kids, it's hard to get little buttons through holes, so maybe I would just do like one big button loop right here. That would be easy for them to connect, but for this particular, I'm going to demonstrate two buttonholes with these size of buttons. So what you need is just the yarn that is the same color of your dress, or you could do a contrasting one if you wanted a crochet hook. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with a slip knot on my hook before I attach anything. So I'll show you an easy way to do a slip knot. I like to take my tail end and wrap it around my fingers up here, and then I'll bring this forward, if that makes sense. So my working end is sticking out under here. This is forward. There's one parallel line on the back. I have an X here. I'll open up my fingers, I'll stick that in there, hold it, and then I can just kind of pull and push this tail end off, and it will slip. So then the definition of a slip knot is that it will slip out. So do that again, and then I'll just slide that onto my hook, and now I'm ready to start on my work. So I'm going to put my buttonholes on this side and my buttons over here. So I'm going to start right here in this very first stitch. Now I've already weaved in my ends on this particular project, but if you hadn't weaved in your ends, then you could just work it in as you start this, and we'll weave this one in, so I'll kind of show you how that's done. So we've just gone through that first stitch of the back side of our dress, and I'm just gonna yarn over and do a slip stitch to attach it. And now I'm gonna start working this direction down. So, and I'm going to work this tail end as I go so I don't have to sew it in later. So I'm attached to my first stitch there, and I'm going to actually move this yarn to the back. Okay, like so. So then I'm going to go into this first stitch where I actually just went through and do a single crochet. So I'll go in, yarn over, come through. Oh, except for, okay, so this piece of yarn is kind of tricky. I'm gonna work in at the same time. So I'll go in, and I'm just working my single crochet around that stitch. Okay, and then I'll do that same with the second. So just in every stitch do a single crochet, but we're not going to go all the way around and then make our buttonholes. We're going to make our buttonholes as we go. So what we want to do is single crochet past the distance of our buttonhole. So right here, I'm going to do one more, and then we'll start making our buttonhole. So go in here, make sure that we go around this working yarn. Alright, and then we'll see, do I have enough room? Yes. So for this particular button size, I'm just gonna kind of estimate. So I think that maybe I'll need let's see, a chain of 3 for the loop. So I'll try, let's chain 3. And then look and see, does that look like it's gonna fit? It could, but it might be a little snug. So what I'm gonna do actually is go ahead and chain 4, and I think that works great. So now that I have my chain of 4, I'm going to go where you can decide wherever depending on the placement of your buttonhole, but I'm gonna kind of pull this loop out a little bit, and then I'm gonna go in this space right here, and then come and grab that again, and then I'll yarn over and I'll pull all of that through. So I'm going through this one and then through those 2 loops. So there's my buttonhole. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to single crochet around that. So I'll go in first and then I'll yarn over, come out, and I'll do that probably however many chains I did. So I'll do 4 chains. I did 4 chains. So I'm going to add maybe an additional 2 single crochets around that. So a total of 6. So I think I'm at 4. There is 5. And this would be 6. Okay. So there's that, and then does my button slide through? Yeah, way easy if I was a kid. Is it almost too much? So it's gonna look like that once it's on there. I think that it's gonna be fine. Maybe I could have done 3 and it would have worked out. So now that I've gone through that I've created my first buttonhole, and now I'm gonna go back to doing my single crochets. So I'm going to go into this stitch and I'll go around that tail end that I'm working in. Here's 1, and I'll go in the next one, and again I'll just work my way until I get the amount of space that I need for my next buttonhole. And I did this one at the top, so I'm going to kind of make sure that there's enough space so that my dress closes fully. So I'm kind of going to work my way more towards the bottom. And really, I guess I have room that I can even do 3 here probably. I'm just going to do 2, and there'll just be a space in between. So on this particular one, I made windows because I wanted to run a window through here. So it's just the same thing if you are making this particular dress. Just go around, like I'll just go around this whole chain with my single crochets. Okay, so now I think I have a good enough space that I can put this button here. So I'll chain my 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then I'm gonna count this one. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna kind of pull this out a little bit, and I will go into this 4th stitch right here, come back, slide through this one, yarn over, and pull through all of them, which shouldn't be that hard. I guess I just have my yarn really tight through there. And then I will just go immediately around my button loop with single crochets. So there's 1, and again I'll do 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then that's completed my button loop. Make sure that my button fits through. And then I'm gonna go, if you didn't have a window here, you could just go back into your regular stitches, but because I have a window here and I believe that was like a chain of 3, I'll do at least 3. I don't want it to be bulky. I'll just do 2, and then I'll jump down into this one. So all I'm doing is going around my bottom part of my dress, and then I'm just gonna work my way back with single crochets into every stitch on the other side, just to give it like a complete finished look. And again, so this is where I have windows on this particular style of dress, so I'll do, I think I did 2 on the other side into the window around these, and then I'll go back the way to the top. This is kind of tricky because this is where I weaved in my original tail end. And if you wanted, depending on your style of dress and the look that you're going for, you could continue to single crochet around like the border of the top part of your dress. I'm not going to because I don't want to add extra bulk to this particular style. So I'm just going to finish off here. I'll cut my work and then pull this through with a knot. I'll take my needle and then I'll just work in this tail end so it doesn't come undone. And I'm just I'm gonna go like downwards because I worked my previous tail end this direction and I don't want it to be bulky there, so I'm gonna kind of spread out the weaves in so I don't make a build up in that corner right there. So I'll go this way and then this way. It really doesn't matter, you can weave it in like wherever you want, just as long as you're going different directions. And then for the very last part, I will make sure that I go a completely different direction and get in through there, and then I can cut that off pretty tight and close. If you want, you could add a dab of fray check there just so you're absolutely sure that that's not coming undone. Okay, and then for the very last part, we're gonna add these buttons with just a regular needle and thread. So find some thread that matches either your buttons or your yarn, or you could even do white if you don't have one that matches exactly. Okay, and once you have your needle thread, just make sure that you line up your buttons in the proper space where you want them to go. Kind of just eyeball it, but don't make sure, like, I wouldn't want to put it right there because that's not where my buttonholes are. So this one's going to be more towards the top, and I will start from the back. And then move forward. And then just continue to go back and forth a few times. Oh, careful not to poke yourself with a needle. I just did. And just pull everything tight, and you'll avoid those loops. That's probably not coming undone, but I'm going to go ahead and do it just a few more times. because I like to be extra sure that nothing's coming undone. Okay, and then kind of just go under all that bundle that we've created, or even just through a strand of yarn, and then just tie a knot. So go through this loop and do that once, and I got a loop there. See if I can pull it. Okay, so I can't, but that's okay. And then I'll just do that one more time. Go through and just make a knot, pull it tight, and then I can just cut off that. Okay, so there's that button, and I'll stick my buttonhole through it. It could have been, I think if I were to do this again, I would have done the chain of 3 instead of the chain of 4, but it still works really good. I don't think it looks bad. So there's one, and then I'll quickly do the bottom one. I'm going to do it in fast. So as you can see on this one, the first time it just pulled straight through my yarn. If that happens, just come back here and catch in between your strands of yarn and grab it, and then it won't pull all the way through. And then just keep continuing to sew your button on.